My dad slid a note under my bedroom door at 6 a.m. on December 24th, like I was a guest who overstayed at a hotel. The letterhead said, "From the management." And the message was simple. Your free stay has expired. You have 24 hours to vacate the premises. 25 years as their son. And Richard thought that was funny. Growing up in my family meant understanding one thing early. Cedric was the investment and I was the afterthought. Cedric got the SAT tutors. Cedric got the car at 16. Cedric got his college paid while I worked nights at the warehouse to afford community college. My parents, Richard and Teresa, never hid their preference. They just framed it as Cedric has more potential and you're independent and you'll figure it out. I believed them for years. I was 25 when the eviction happened. I had moved back home 8 months earlier after my apartment building got sold and converted to condos. My parents agreed to let me stay while I saved for a new deposit. I paid them $400 a month and did all the yard work and fixed the kitchen sink twice. I thought I was contributing. What I didn't know was that Cedric and his girlfriend Jessica were expecting a baby, and my room was becoming a nursery. They decided this in October but wanted to wait until after Thanksgiving so they wouldn't ruin the holiday. So they ruined Christmas instead. I need you to understand something about "you're independent, you'll figure it out" parents. That phrase is doing so much heavy lifting. Because what they're actually saying is, we already decided who matters and we need you to be okay with it so we don't feel guilty. They're not complimenting you. They're writing themselves a permission slip to neglect you and calling it a character trait you have. And this man Richard, sitting there with his cute little "from the management" letterhead like he's doing a bit. Like this is improv night at the comedy club. Sir, you are evicting your child on Christmas Eve. The creativity you put into that note, put that into being a father. Put that into a single conversation at any point in the last 2 months. But no, he wanted his little joke. He wanted to be clever. Some people would rather be funny than be decent, and Richard chose violence wrapped in dad humor. When I came downstairs that morning, Teresa had already packed my things. She used trash bags, not boxes. Black trash bags like she was clearing out a dead relative's junk. My photos and my books and my clothes all stuffed into garbage bags lined up by the door. Richard sat at the kitchen table reading on his tablet like it was any other Thursday. I asked him what was happening and he said, "Cedric needs the space and you're a grown man, so figure it out." That was it. Cedric came by around noon. I asked him directly if he knew about this plan. He said, "Yeah, they told me at Thanksgiving." He had known for a month. He watched me at that dinner table passing the dishes and said nothing. Then he changed the Wi-Fi password while I was standing right there and told me I wouldn't need internet if I was leaving anyway. I asked Teresa how she could pack my childhood photos in trash bags, and she said I was being dramatic and that I could buy new frames. The Wi-Fi password thing is making me actually insane because it's so unnecessary. Like, the eviction is already happening. The damage is done. But Cedric needed that little extra twist of the knife because some people aren't satisfied just winning. They need you to know you lost. That's a personality type. That's someone who needs to see the pain register on your face or it doesn't count. And Teresa with the "buy new frames." Ma'am, it's not about the frames. Those were photographs of him as a child, in your home, with your family. You stuffed them in garbage bags because that's how you see his entire existence in this family. Disposable when inconvenient. And she called him dramatic. The lack of self-awareness is actually Olympic level. She should compete internationally. But the part that still gets me, someone posted a picture of my mattress on the curb. On Reddit. Caption said, "Comes with 25 years of disappointment. Free." I found it 3 days later with 200 upvotes. I never confirmed who posted it, but Cedric was the only one in that family who used Reddit. I left that night, December 24th, 3 inches of snow on the ground, 1 bag, 0 words. I didn't argue or beg or ask them to reconsider. I just walked out the front door into the cold and I kept walking. And I made myself a promise right there on that sidewalk. This wasn't over. I wasn't going to cry about it or post sad updates looking for sympathy. I was going to build. And I was going to wait. And when the time came, I was going to make them understand exactly what they threw away. That was 2 years ago. No calls, no texts, no holiday cards. I blocked every number and every account and vanished completely. And in those 2 years, I did exactly what I promised myself. I got the degree they said I didn't need. I got the job they said was above my station. I saved everything and I planned everything. And I waited for the moment I knew would come eventually. Last week, I made 1 phone call. Just 1. And now Teresa has called me 203 times. Richard left 14 voicemails begging me to reconsider. Cedric messaged me from 6 different accounts. They all want to talk now. They're all panicking. And I haven't even started yet. Update coming. 200 upvotes on a picture mocking your own brother's homelessness. Cedric sat there, typed that caption out, probably workshopped it in his head like, ooh, that's gonna hit, posted it, and then checked back to see how well it performed. That's premeditated cruelty for clout, from his own brother, on Christmas. The bar for being a decent sibling is literally underground, and Cedric brought a shovel. But here's the thing I love about OP. The silence. 2 years of nothing. No angry texts at 2 a.m., no drunk voicemails, no showing up to holidays to make a scene. Just complete surgical removal of himself from their lives. And that's the thing about cutting off toxic family. Because they don't notice until they need something. 203 missed calls means something shifted in their universe. The one they could always count on to just take it? Gone. And now they're scrambling. I am buckled in for this update. Update 1. Alright, so a lot of you asked what the phone call was about. Here's the thing. When I was 19, Richard and Teresa refinanced the house. Their credit was bad from Cedric's private school debt and a car loan that went sideways. They needed a co-signer with clean credit. They sat me down and explained that this was just a formality and my name on the papers didn't really mean anything. I was 19 and stupid and trusted them, so I signed everything. What I didn't understand was that being a co-signer on a mortgage means you're equally responsible for the loan. Your name is on the deed. I found this out 8 months ago applying for my own mortgage when the lender asked about my existing property obligation. I had to explain I didn't own property and she showed me the records. So the phone call was to Richard. I told him I had spoken with a real estate attorney about my legal options. As a co-owner, I had certain rights including forcing a sale if we couldn't agree on the property's use. I was filing paperwork Monday. I need you to marinate in this for a second. They used this man's clean credit, the credit he built working warehouse nights while they paid for Cedric's private school, to save their house. They needed him, the independent one, the figure-it-out kid. When it was time to rescue the family finances, suddenly he was useful. Suddenly, his signature mattered. And they told him it was just a formality. They looked their 19-year-old son in the face and lied about legal documents because they knew he trusted them. That's not a mistake. That's not a miscommunication. That's exploitation with extra steps. They used his love for them as a weapon against his future, and they did it on purpose. Richard panicked immediately, started talking about how family doesn't sue family, and I was being unreasonable. I let him talk, then said, "You threw me out Christmas Eve in the snow with my belongings in trash bags. You gave my room to Cedric without a conversation. And now you lecture me about family?" He pivoted, said Teresa was devastated, and they made a mistake and wanted to make it right. I asked how exactly. He said I could move back. The same room they gave to the baby. I laughed and told him I wasn't interested in a bedroom. I wanted my legal share of property I paid on for 6 years before they kicked me out. Teresa got on crying and saying she was sorry and never meant for things to go this far. I asked what she was expecting when she packed my photos in garbage bags. She said she was stressed about the baby and Cedric needed help and I was always independent, so she figured I'd be fine. I told her that assumption didn't give her the right to treat me like garbage. Family doesn't sue family is the craziest thing to say to someone you evicted on Christmas Eve. Like, sir, family also doesn't slide fake hotel notices under doors. Family doesn't pack belongings in trash bags. Family doesn't post mattress pictures on Reddit for internet points. But now, we're talking about what family does and doesn't do. Now we have standards. These people want the benefits of family. Loyalty, forgiveness, sacrifice, without any of the responsibilities. They want OP to act like a son while they treated him like a tenant. Actually, no, worse than a tenant. Tenants get 30 days notice. Tenants get their stuff in boxes. Tenants don't get mocked on social media by their landlord's other kid. And Richard's solution is, move back into the same room? My guy, you fumbled so hard you're in a different sport now. OP doesn't want a bedroom. OP wants acknowledgement that you people are terrible. And you still can't give him that. Here's the new complication. Cedric and Jessica's baby, Justin, was born 6 months ago. Jessica is pregnant again with twins. They moved into my parents' house because they couldn't afford their apartment. 5 people living in a house I legally co-own. And Cedric got laid off 3 weeks ago. They're desperate for me to back off because forcing a sale means they have nowhere to go. Cedric messaged me yesterday. No apology. Just explaining how I was putting his children on the street and asking if I really wanted to be that person. Yeah, Cedric, I do. You watched them plan my eviction for a month and said nothing. You changed the Wi-Fi password to my face. I'm not backing off. And I haven't told them what I found in the county records yet. Update coming. Cedric with, "Do you really want to be that person?" is sending me into orbit. Cedric, you were that person first. You were that person at Thanksgiving when you watched your brother carve turkey, not knowing he had 29 days left in that house. You were that person when you changed a Wi-Fi password just to be petty. You were that person when you captioned a mattress photo with a joke about disappointment. But now that consequences exist, now we're worried about what kind of person people are being. Funny how that works. Funny how that person only becomes a concern when you're on the receiving end. And folks, can we talk about the life trajectory here? OP got kicked out, and in 2 years, degree, job, savings, attorney, plan. Cedric in those same 2 years, baby, twins coming, fired, not laid off, fired, moved back in with mommy and daddy, begging his brother for mercy. The potential kid and the figure-it-out kid swapped places so hard the universe needed a chiropractor. Update 2. So Jessica decided to get involved. She found my Instagram through a mutual friend and sent me a long message about how I was destroying her family and putting a pregnant woman and babies on the street. She said she never did anything to me and I was punishing innocent people. I responded. I told her Cedric sat at Thanksgiving, knowing I was about to be thrown out, and said nothing. I asked if she knew about the plan too. She didn't answer that. Just kept saying I was cruel and vindictive and that family supports each other. I told her that's exactly what I thought before Christmas Eve 2 years ago. Here's what the county records showed. Richard took out a home equity line 18 months ago. $40,000 borrowed against the house. The money funded Cedric's delivery service that failed within 8 months. They kicked me out for Cedric's family and drained equity from a property I'm legally attached to for Cedric's failed business. My credit is tied to this house, and they made major financial decisions without telling me. Jessica dodging that Thanksgiving question like she's in the Matrix tells you everything. She knew. She sat at that table too. She watched them play happy family with a man they were about to throw into the snow, and she ate the stuffing and smiled. I never did anything to you. Girl, neither did he. He existed in their house paying rent and fixing sinks. His crime was not being Cedric. That's it. That's the whole offense. And hold on, let me do math on this 40,000 situation. They kicked OP out for a nursery, gave his room to the Golden Child's family, then borrowed 40,000 against a house OP is legally attached to, gave it to Cedric for a business that failed in 8 months, and didn't tell OP any of this? That's not just betrayal, that's financial identity fraud with family characteristics. His credit score is out there taking hits for Cedric's DoorDash knockoff, and nobody thought to mention it. Richard called after Jessica told him about our conversation. He offered to buy out my share. I asked how exactly when he just admitted to 40,000 in debt. He started explaining they could refinance again and get money together over time. I told him I wasn't interested in payment plans. I wanted my share now or the sale proceeds. Then Teresa's sister Harriet messaged me on Facebook saying I needed to think about the bigger picture. Families forgive each other. I asked if she knew they made me sleep in the basement when Cedric had friends over. She admitted she always thought they were too hard on me but didn't want to interfere. Harriet told me something I didn't know. Cedric didn't get laid off. He got fired for not showing up 2 weeks straight. He lied to Richard and Teresa to avoid the lecture. So they lie to each other constantly but expect complete loyalty from me. Aunt Harriet with I always thought they were too hard on you but didn't want to interfere is the mascot for every family member who watched abuse happen and said nothing. You saw a kid getting treated like a second-class citizen in his own home. You saw him get sent to the basement when company came over like he was embarrassing. You knew. And you stayed quiet for years, but now you want to text about forgiveness and bigger pictures? Ma'am, your silence was part of the problem. You don't get to be the peacemaker when you were a bystander. And Cedric lying about getting fired is the cherry on top of this dysfunction Sunday. This family's entire foundation is built on lies. They lie to each other. They lie to OP. They lie about OP. But somehow he's the one who needs to be loyal? He's the one breaking family code? The math is not mathing. These people are delusional. I filed the partition action Wednesday. Richard called 17 times that day. Teresa texted that I was killing her and her blood pressure was dangerous and I would have her death on my conscience. I didn't respond. Cedric finally called. Started by saying he was sorry and should have warned me about the eviction. Then pivoted to saying I was overreacting and normal people don't sue family and maybe I needed professional help. I told him normal families don't post their son's mattress on the curb with mocking captions. He denied posting it. I don't believe him. Court date is 3 weeks away. They're running out of options. Update coming. Teresa saying I will die and it will be your fault is manipulation 101. That's the final boss move of toxic parents everywhere. When logic fails, when guilt fails, when crying fails, they go for the mortality card. My blood pressure, my heart. You're killing me. Okay, Teresa. And who packed childhood photos in garbage bags? Whose blood pressure was fine then? You can't claim fragile health now when you had the energy to stuff 25 years of someone's life into hefty bags. And Cedric with, maybe you need professional help. Actually, getting away from you people is the professional help. Therapists everywhere would high-five this man for setting boundaries. What he needed help with was the trauma your family caused, and he handled it by becoming successful and getting a lawyer. That's the healthiest possible response to what you people did. Final update. Court happened yesterday. I want to thank everyone who followed this story because writing it out helped me stay focused when they tried every manipulation tactic possible. The week before court, Richard showed up at my apartment building. He got my address from Harriet, who got it from a cousin I forgot existed. He stood in the parking lot for 2 hours until I came home from work. He looked terrible, older than I remembered. He started talking before I even got close, saying he was sorry and he knew they messed up and he was begging me to drop the case. I asked him why he thought a hotel eviction note was acceptable for his own son. He said it was supposed to be a joke and Cedric wrote it and he should have stopped it, but he didn't think I would take it so seriously. I told him I took being homeless on Christmas Eve very seriously. He said I was never homeless because I could have gone to a friend's place. That's when I knew nothing had actually changed. He still didn't see the problem. I told him I would see him in court and walked inside. You could have gone to a friend's place, is Richard telling on himself one final time. Because that's the whole problem, isn't it? They didn't throw him into the snow thinking he'd suffer. They threw him into the snow thinking someone else would catch him. Someone else would house him. Someone else would care. They outsourced their parental responsibility to hypothetical friends because they never saw themselves as his safety net in the first place. Richard standing in that parking lot for 2 hours looking old and tired? That's called consequences, my guy. That's what happens when you treat people like garbage and they don't come back. You age. You stress. You stand in parking lots begging for mercy you never showed. The from the management guy finally met someone who couldn't be managed. The judge ordered the sale. Richard's attorney tried arguing that forcing elderly homeowners out would cause undue hardship, but my attorney presented the equity line documents showing they had already leveraged the property without my consent. The judge noted that I was a legal co-owner who had been excluded from major financial decisions and that partition was appropriate. The house goes on the market next month. After the $40,000 equity line and remaining mortgage are paid, the estimated split gives me around $65,000. Richard and Teresa will get the same. But here's the thing. They owe back taxes and 2 credit cards, and Cedric's failed business left suppliers unpaid who are now coming after personal guarantors. Their $65,000 will be gone before they see a dollar of it. Richard's lawyer, trying to play the elderly homeowner's sympathy card in front of a judge who just saw evidence they committed financial decisions behind a co-owner's back, is bold. Like, sir, your clients aren't victims. They're elderly people who made terrible choices and treated their son like an ATM with legs. The judge saw through it immediately because judges see this stuff every day. Families who want equity without equality, who want benefits without responsibility. And that's $65,000 going straight to creditors before Richard and Teresa see a penny. That's poetry. That's the universe writing a sonnet. Every dollar they took out for Cedric's failed dreams is now a dollar they'll never touch. Meanwhile, OP gets his $65,000 clean. He built while they burned, and now the receipts are literally receipts. Cedric tried one more time after court. Found me in the courthouse parking garage. Jessica was in the car with baby Justin crying in the back seat. Cedric said his children were going to be homeless because of me. I told him his children were going to be homeless because he got fired and lied about it, and because he let our parents drain their equity for his failed business, and because he sat at Thanksgiving dinner knowing I was about to be evicted and said nothing. He said I was heartless. I told him I learned from the best. Then I got in my car and left. Teresa's 203 missed calls are still on my phone. I saved every voicemail. Richard begging, Teresa crying, Cedric threatening, then pleading. All of it saved. Not because I need it for anything legal. Just because on Christmas Eve 2 years ago, they treated me like garbage and now they know exactly what that feels like. My dad slid a note under my door like I was a hotel guest whose stay expired. Now he's losing the hotel. That's it. That's the whole story.